Welcome back to the Queen of TV channel, everyone. Before we get into our intro, let's get into quick things first. First, please watch the video to the very end and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Second, there will be cursing and profanity. If that's not your cup of tea, this channel is not for you. Lastly, I'll be giving my honest opinion about the episode and the show as a whole. So without further ado, let's get into the intro. Welcome everyone, I'm your host, the Queen herself, and you are the Prince and Princesses. Why? Because you're either a subscriber or you are a viewer. Either way, welcome. Today we're talking about H2O Season 2, Episode 19, Gracie's Code, Part 1. We start this episode with Lewis at Mako Island when Cleo and Ricky show up, because Emma's not in this episode at all, and Ricky is only in it for like 2 scenes. But they show up where they find Lewis testing the magnetic forces within the moon pool. Ricky isn't interested, but Cleo is. Lewis says that he is testing how the magnetic force changes during the full moon, during the planet alignments, and when the moon pool is actually active, because he just had an itch for it that morning. He couldn't get it out of his head. So he later meets him at the Juicenet Cafe, where he finds out that someone else has done the research the same as he has back in 1957. Okay. So that definitely still reinforced what I said last episode. This is past 50 fucking years. If it was 1957 he was doing this research, the same year that Gracie gave her powers up, then by God, it has been 51 years since it happened. Not 50 years. But I'm guessing they filmed season 2 in 2007, so I guess in their logic, it's 50 years. Can't seem to find Max Hamilton, however. So Ricky has a look, and she's able to find a Max K. Hamilton who lives on the coast. Spoiler, yes, Max is the Lewis of the original Mermaids. So hopefully we don't get the repeat of history where Max is with Lewis. We didn't, but thank God for that. But I was hoping when I first saw this show, we was not going to get that. Lewis goes to meet Max where he finds him fishing, and they have a pleasant, friendly conversation until Lewis mentions Mako Island. Then Max completely clams up and pretends that he does not know anything about Mako Island. Lewis leaves with an idea and a suspicion that Max is not telling him the whole truth. He talks to Cleo, who lets him know that she has a bad feeling about him telling Max anything and for how much he knows. She ends up being right when we get to episode 21. Because she doesn't know if they can fully 100% trust Max. Now, Lewis says that he will be careful, but neither of them notice that Max is actually watching them from afar, and he sees that the locket that Clewis is wearing that used to belong to Gracie, aka Hicks' ex-girlfriend and mermaid. So Max changes his mind, and he's willing to actually help Lewis with his research. Lewis is taken a bit aback, and he wonders what's changed, and Max apparently decided to just help him on one condition. Lou's excited that he's willing to give him this information, so he asks what condition it is, and he lets him know that he wants the locket that's over Cleo's neck in place of him giving him the research. So Lou decides to take him up on his offer. He brings Cleo a fish that he fished out for her, and he notices that her locket is kind of messed up and wonky because the chain has always been messed up since Cleo's gotten it. If you noticed in season 1 episode 16, she tried to fix it and it fell off. So he decides to use the opportunity to tell Cleo that he can get a professional to fix it for her, so that way he can give it to Max. She trusts Lewis and she gives him the necklace. When Max looks at it, he admits that he's the one that created all 3 for each girl, but the one that Cleo has is very special to him because it belonged to the girl, Gracie. Now, he says that Lewis should understand that, considering that he knows for a fact that Cleo was once the girl for him, but he said that him and Cleo had broken up and that they were just kids back then, even though it's only been like a couple of fucking months. So I don't know what the fuck Clewis is talking about. Max is not convinced like every fucking body else. Charlotte knows it. That's why she's being such a bitch to Cleo for no fucking reason. Zane knows it. Ricky knows it. Emma knows it. Max knows it. Hell, it's just Cleo and Lewis who choose to be in fucking denial and decides to be friends. When Lewis brings up what about the research that Max had promised him, Max said that he would give it to him to meet him at the port near where Lewis's boat is, and he will give him the research. Lewis goes to talk to Cleo, where he tells her she's getting her necklace back later on because he's getting it fixed by a professional. And Cleo brings up Charlotte because she's wondering if they would be hanging out today. And he says, not really. She's doing her own thing. You know, they both are individuals. And he does ask Cleo if she wants to go out to Mako Island. But she says she's been pretty busy, so she really can't go. And he accepts that and leaves. Well, we find out that Lewis told a damn lie. Because Charlotte shows up at the Juice Net Cafe, rushing in there, mind you. Been looking for Lewis all over the place, cannot find him, and when she goes to talk to him, he gives her the complete no to run around. So actually, he's been ignoring her for an entire day. And she asks Lewis if they can hang out, but he tells her that he is busy. Remember what I told y'all in episode 14? They was gonna make her take a back seat? Honey, she became a mermaid out of desperation, okay? She was desperate. The damn dude was not paying her no attention. She knew becoming a mermaid would give him her attention. And I will be able to explain you why when we get to that episode. But he leaves her there by herself. Cleo tried to tell her he was going to abandon her. Look at him, constantly abandon her every chance he get. She didn't listen. So he gets to his boat where Max shows up. He has all the research, and Max said he'll give it to him if he takes his ass out to Mako Island. So he takes him out to Mako Island. They get there, and Max decides to wander the freak off. Lewis tries to catch up with this old man for some reason who has a lot of speed on him as he's going down memory lane of all him and Gracie's happy moments of them running around on Mako Island, playing the hide and go seek game. Well, Cleo is also on her way, changing her mind and decides to go to Mako Island. And the same time that she's getting out the moon pool is the same time that Max makes it to the entrance on land to the moon pool, where Lewis finally catches up to Max but notices that he has gone down to where the moon pool is. Max is all excited. Feels so good to reclaim the youth that he lost because he ain't been there since him and Gracie broke up. And he ends up walking in as Cleo is sitting on a rock waiting for Lewis. And Cleo is confused as to why Max is there, and Max starts questioning Cleo about how she got there. She tries to give him the most convincing story that she can think of, but it's not working. He's not boo-boo the fool. So Cleo tells him she got there before they did, but he says that they didn't see another boat. Now, Max is suspicious and wondering if Cleo's a mermaid, but isn't sure. So he apparently is messing with the moon water and says that it would be nice, to get in, and then he splashes the water on her legs, which forces her to have to jump in. He says that he's sorry, but he had to know. You could have just asked if she was a mermaid. If he already knows everything, just say, Cleo, I know you're a mermaid. It's cool. You don't have to douse her with water. Obviously, Cleo's scared and she tries to leave, but Max begs her not to and is able to convince her to get out the water and that she can trust him. This is where he sits down and he tells her the backstory of what happened with Gracie. He found out the girls were mermaids by following them out to Mako Island. How the fuck did he know they were going out there? We never find out. He also said that the other two were not happy, but Gracie was. Sounds fucking familiar. doesn't it, Lewis? And he says that they were so happy, and we see all these lovey-dovey moments and stuff. But then the problems start. Gracie grew unhappy with being a mermaid because she could not find the balance between the two. So she was in the same boat that Cleo was in. And like Cleo from episode 2, because that was one of the reasons why she broke up with Lewis, she felt that he cared more about the mermaid stuff than he did with what was going on with her. But he was doing that to try to help her. But he got too caught up in it. And she grew unhappy with their relationship. She even distanced herself from her friends, unlike Cleo, who didn't distance herself from her friends. Her friends would distance themselves from her. So it was the opposite. Well, they weren't doing that to be mean. They were just busy with their own relationships and stuff. So they couldn't just be there for like they should have been. But, shit happened and they worked it out. But I digress. We'll get more on that when we get to those episodes. But he admitted that he had created the lockets for each girl as a symbol of them being mermaids. Now, to the girls, it was a symbol of their friendship and their togetherness. While for Max, it was to help Gracie be okay with being a mermaid. Despite she was unhappy with it. Despite that. He wanted her to accept it, so he gave her a locket. He told her that he made her this locket. She was very happy when she got it and excited, and they were in love for a time. But then she eventually grew tired of it and tired of the relationship, and that locket became a reminder that he didn't want a normal girl. He wanted a mermaid. He did not see her as herself. He saw the mermaid. We'll get to more of that in the review. So, listen up, Charlotte fans. Gracie took the locket off and said she no longer wanted the locket. She threw it in the pool and separated herself from it, no longer claiming the item as hers anymore. If you've seen the comments, you know why I'm saying this. Gracie then breaks up with Max. Leo asks what happened to Gracie, and we see the flashes where the full moon is showing up, obviously, and Gracie dressing up like a damn grandma. Like, I don't care what nobody said. That outfit she got on is grandma's outfit. Matter of fact, the jacket and the blouse that Charlotte was wearing this episode looks exactly like a style that Emma had wore once. And I believe season 1 or 2. What season was this? Where she wore like a yellow type jacket or a blue type jacket with a blouse. It was either in season 1 or in one episode of season 2, and I am trying to remember for the life of me. But I can't. You guys let me know in the comments what episode that I'm referring to where Emma wore a look like that. Not the pants. None of them would be caught in no pants. Now, them pants are more like Cleo's pants, which is why I'm gonna say Cleo. So she's kind of got a mixed match Emma and Cleo look going on. But she gets in, and obviously we know she gave her powers up. Max doesn't tell Cleo and them that. I don't know why Max doesn't tell Cleo and them about that full moon. But I guess he doesn't want history to repeat itself. But that would have been good information to know ahead of time. So they can be like, okay, if the thing with Charlotte doesn't work out, we can just not tell her about this full moon and push her ass in there. That's smart. We just got to make sure that Lewis doesn't tell her that. We got to tell Lewis that only if the moon is necessary, we should tell her. But until then, we're not going to use that full moon, so there's no point in telling her about the full moon. We just tell her that we don't go to Mako Island on the full moon. That's it. It's dangerous. We don't even look at it. We don't have to give her the full details. And if he trusts them, he shouldn't tell her. But that doesn't happen. Should have happened, but it didn't. Cleo asks Max if there's a possibility that Gracie broke up with him because she was a mermaid. He says that he doesn't know and that maybe it was his fault. She said it wasn't his fault, that sometimes we make choices that we do not realize is a mistake until it's too late. Obviously, talking about her and Lewis breaking up. At the time, yes, I totally agree that they needed to break up. And I still believe that, considering what now I realize when Max looking back on this again. Cleo tells Max it wasn't his fault. Max takes what she said to heart, but he's still not fully convinced. He leaves and he does get the necklace back to Lewis, but he tells Lewis this: hang on to her. Hold on to Cleo and do not let her get away. He failed with Gracie doing that. Do not make the same mistake he made. And Lewis remembers that, but he doesn't express that until he has no choice to. He goes back to Cleo's house. He gives her the lock. He lets her know that Max had fixed it for her. She thanks Lewis, and she asks if Max had anything else when she had left. He doesn't tell her anything. He says not really. And the episode ends on a happy note. So let's get into the review. Why do I still think the breakup between Lewis and Cleo was necessary? Because of the way that if Lewis and Cleo did not break up, I'm pretty sure Lewis would have became like Max. Okay? I'm going to be 100 with all of you. I believe that Lewis's behavior was the main reason as to why Cleo broke up with him, not just to fully do with her being a mermaid. Yes, Lewis was getting caught up like Max did. That's why they broke up. That's why the relationship had ended. But it was never Lewis's fault. Like, Cleo never made it Lewis' fault. And she constantly reminded Lewis, like, over and over again, like, yeah, we broke up, but it was never your fault, and there was nothing you could have done differently that would have stopped it. She's done that multiple times. In Max's case, Max talks more about their relationship when she was a mermaid. We know that Lewis liked Cleo long before she became a mermaid. And Lewis has made it clear multiple times that her being a mermaid has nothing to do with any of her relationships with him or her friends. Max, on the other hand, this episode admits that he did not care about Louise and Grace, like Louise and Julia at all. He cared more about Gracie. That is the only reason why he agreed to help them, was because of Gracie. With Lewis, that is a total opposite. He does care about Emma and Ricky. We've seen his behavior towards them when they've gotten hurt or when they needed him. He's always been there for them too. He isn't just solely helping them because of Cleo. He's helping them because he gives a damn about all three of them. Now, for Zane, yes, he would help them because of Ricky. Maybe Ash as well, only with Emma. But with Lewis, it is because of all three of them. And that's the same when Bella gets introduced into the group. He cares about all the girls involved. It isn't just a one specific girl. So Lewis and Max are not the same. Yes, they've both been through the same things, but Lewis and Cleo were able to find that common ground because Cleo was willing to keep that common ground. It seems like, for me, Gracie was not willing to keep that common ground. Gracie never saw her and Max as fucking equals. And you can kind of tell that in the flashbacks. We may not have the full story. We may not know the full thing about Gracie. But what I can contest from Gracie is that Gracie was like Charlotte. Gracie was selfish. She literally broke up with him, and in the midst of breaking up with him, with Cleo, I understood the breakup. I understood what Cleo was saying in this breakup when she told Lewis that he did not understand. He wasn't like them. He wasn't a merman. He did not understand what they were going through and how Cleo was feeling, so he could not actually fully understand how hard it was for her, and that maybe it was better if she was alone to figure things out, because right now she had a whole lot of shit to deal with. We don't know what the fuck Gracie was dealing with. The only thing we know that Gracie was dealing with is that she could not handle being a mermaid. Gracie breaking up with Max compared to Cleo breaking up with Lewis is different. Cleo would never blame Lewis. She never made it to be Lewis's fault. She broke up with Lewis for the right reasons. Like, literally, he cared more about what was going on with the mermaid stuff than what she was going through mentally. And on top of that, he was being very clingy and controlling. So it made sense for their breakup. While in Grace's case, she broke up with Max, yes, for the right reason. He literally was too caught up in the mermaid stuff. And I feel like Max was more in love with her as a mermaid than he was for her as the person. The way she broke up with him, she made it seem like being with him made her feel like she will never truly be an ordinary girl. So she was blaming him. She was saying that it was his fault, that he was the reason that she was even more unhappier, and that having that locket was a constant reminder of that, and that's why she got rid of the thing. That means that she, one, never saw them as equals. Two, she did not love him as much as he loved him. And lastly, she did never attempt to find a common ground as a mermaid. You can sit here and argue all day that different time periods, different stance. The girls are from the literally in the middle of the 2000s going into the late 2000s, while these girls were going into the late 1950s into the middle of the while in the middle of the 1950s. This is 1957. This is 2008 being filmed in 2007. So at the end of the day, Cleo and Gracie are neck and neck. They're in the middle of in the middle of the generation that they are in. The issue is it does not matter what the generation is. Gracie was fucking selfish. She did not care about everyone else's feelings. She did not care about Max's feelings. She cared more about how she was feeling. And that's the same thing with Charlotte. So I can wholeheartedly believe that Charlotte and Gracie were fucking alike. And that is why Charlotte showing so much similarities to Gracie, because she's adapted to Gracie's behavior. Because we gonna find the next episode about how Charlotte's mother never really got along with Gracie. And Gracie was her own mother. But they butt heads a lot. But her and Charlotte, they were like sisters. They were friends. It was like a mother-daughter relationship. So now looking at it in this light, I can see the similarities between Emma and Mrs. Chatham, which is wholesome because they both are like very grounded people, or at least Emma's becoming a grounded person. While Ricky and Julia both were like the same in personality, they both had different types of outcomes with their boyfriends. So I know that Ricky will have the same outcome with her where she's no longer with hers, but Ricky will be able to not let that defy her the way that Julia let it defy her, because Julia died without her friends around. Ricky will still be able to have her friends. They'll all just have their own adult lives. Now with Cleo and Gracie, now I need the Charlotte Apologist fans to listen up. Compare Cleo to Gracie, Cleo is way more selfless than Gracie is. And I understand, yes, Gracie was a teenager. She was young. She made mistakes. She said and did things in her youth that she obviously ended up regretting, because why would she do the things that she did with Charlotte? I understand that. But at the end of the day, it does not change the fact that how she went about breaking up with Max was far more harmful than how Cleo did it with Lewis. And to be honest, I believe that Lewis and Cleo's relationship is far more healthier. They just have to work on their communication skills compared to Gracie and Max, whose relationship I just feel is toxic because they both were in the relationships for the wrong fucking reasons. Gracie was with Max, obviously, in a sense that it felt good to finally have some type of normalcy because she didn't have to keep a secret and she actually could share it with somebody and she didn't have to feel alone. While Max grew to love Gracie more as a mermaid. So that's a toxic reason to be in a relationship. Their relationship was not healthy. They did not deserve to be together. And they both were bad for each other. And I will say this to the day I die. Since Gracie feels that way about the locket, that locket is Cleo's. It does not belong to Charlotte. Can't nobody say otherwise. Because if you say that, then that means that the lockets that Julia and Miss Chatham has does not belong to Ricky and Emma. So you can't use one logic with one mermaid but not with the other two. It doesn't matter if Miss Chatham gave the lockets to Emma and Ricky. Julia didn't have the option to give that locket to Ricky. She died. So that still should go to her family members. And we don't even know if she had family. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but I feel like that Max selfishly only loved Gracie because she was a mermaid, not for who she was as a person. Now, I do know that the advice he's giving it to Lewis is Max learning from his personal experience and seeing that Cleo is far better than Gracie was, and that Lewis will have a better and happier life with Cleo than he would have had with Gracie, even though he's still in love with her. I do like that this was a Clewis focused episode and that we got to see more moments with them. Now I will say this because I know y'all saw me smiling, but Lewis is an asshole. And I love him for it. This man completely lied to Cleo's face. When she asked about Charlotte, this man said that they are both individuals and that she is doing her own thing. Knowing full fucking well he was ignoring her this entire time. Now, Lewis is shameful as fuck. Now, he knew better. Miss Cleo had found out that Lewis lied to her and actually he was abandoning Charlotte. Now, I'm pretty sure she probably wouldn't that be but hurt about it. But she would sit there and told Lewis that he probably shouldn't do that because that's hurtful. Now, you could at least give a girl a good reason why. You could just tell her that you've been doing some research and you really haven't had time to spend time with anybody. But you know what? It is what it is. Like I said, I love him for doing that. That's all I got for you guys today. I'll see you guys in the next video. You guys have a blessed day. You have a wonderful day. And if no one saw you today, I'm telling you, I love you guys. And I will see you in the next one. Let me make sure before I say goodbye to y'all if I've said everything I'm supposed to say. Because I keep saying I'm going to say stuff in these episodes. And I keep forgetting to do certain stuff. So let me think. Yeah, no, I think that's it. Bye, guys.